Do you want to talk a little bit about the UFC then? Since
Yeah,
I
let's
think we've
have
covered
it. Yeah,
everything football-wise.
pretty much.
It is one of the biggest cards of the year, you could say, on a Saturday night, Sunday morning, because we are in the UK and it's in Las Vegas. Dustin the Diamond Poirier is going to be taking on the notorious Conor McGregor. It's going to be them settling their trilogy. It's going to be the rubber match. They've had the opener back in 2014. Conor won by first round TKO. They've had the second one. Dustin squared the series. I think it was a second round TKO in that one. And then you got the rubber match now. I think a lot of big differences between the first two fights. We've both watched the fights quite recently, actually, quite luckily, so they're quite fresh in our heads. We'll do predictions and whatnot later. You touched on a point before we started recording about one of the main things you saw, the main difference between the two fights.
Sure. I mean, what's good about us talking about the UFC and everything is that you like proper clued up and know your biz and everything. And me, I am literally like, God, he hits hard, you know.
We've watched quite a few cards though, to be fair.
Well,
Like, when we
in my
lived together, we
time,
used to stay for the pay-per-views and you get, is it the zone? It's all on in Spain, so you get
yeah,
access to them. It's quite
the
nice.
zone or in
Death on.
Spain, Dazón,
Oh.
Dazón. I, I'm one of these people where I could probably watch a million fights and I still would just be like base knowledge. I have to do my research at some point in my life. But I feel like UFC is something maybe you enjoy just as much watching it as a fool as if you're a genius. On the good fights, on the bad fights, you enjoy it bad fights.
Yeah.
And in what do you call it? What do you call this? Speech
Inverted commas.
Inverted commas. That's
Yeah.
it. In inverted commas. Like I think if you really know your stuff and everything, you know, you probably enjoy the more like sort of docile fights as much as you do the boxing matches, really.
Yeah.
But I have always enjoyed the UFC. Any sort of combat sport, I find it so difficult to keep up with. That's my biggest problem. If it was easy to keep up with, I think I'd be a bit obsessed. But so I only tend to watch the big card, so I am a part-time fan, really. But I do enjoy it a lot, you know. And I have seen quite a bit of the UFC. You're probably right at this point, but I always do watch it the next day because I just can't do what you do, Martin.
You're an extra hour ahead as well, so
that's a good point.
You're an extra hour ahead, so you've got even less sleep than we have.
Thank you for the excuse. I'll take it. Yeah. So yeah, I didn't. I hadn't seen the first one when it happened because it was before my time with the UFC and everything. Because it was 2014, no?
2014.
A long time ago now. God knows what I was like when I was 24 in 2014. I don't want to.
I'd only just started watching the UFC at the end of 2013, like December, over that Christmas, and then so it was like my first proper year of watching it. So it was quite a fresh fight to me as well.
Sure. However, the second fight was in January, I think you said, no? Really recent. And I did
Fight
watch
Island.
that. Yeah, there you go. I did watch that fight actually the next day. No, I'm not going to pretend to be as hardcore as those that stay up all night and everything. But having watched the second fight without watching the first fight, what I really thought was that Conor McGregor, typical Conor McGregor in sort of the modern era, is that like he's had his time at the top and everything, and now he's in for the payday and everything. I thought he was a bit half-hearted in everything that he did. Like he started very, very well, no doubt, and everything. And in the striking match, he came out on top. But obviously he opened up massively, and Poirier got one knock, stunned him, and just ended it when he did. It looked to me like Conor McGregor, like I don't know, a bit of almost like a rookie error in his half to leave himself so open and so to be so slow coming out. Because if I remember right, he'd gone in and he was slow coming out.
He got clipped on the counter, yeah.
So that looked.
That's the thing you don't usually see from Conor McGregor. That's one of the things of things with his style. He's in, he's out. He's not so much a point fighter or a counter striker as much, but I think we said before we came on as well, when you were fighting Conor McGregor in his early run, you're coming into his octagon. He's going to dictate the pace of the fight. He's going to make you walk onto his shots, and he's going to be sort of dictating striking rhythm and everything. But for me, I think, sorry.
Sorry, man. This is what I'm saying. It's like, so I'd only seen the second fight. Now thinking back, having today to warm up for this and everything, I watched both the fights again, and what it looked like for me, the massive difference was just how I think Conor McGregor went for the exact same fight. I think he thought he was going to be fighting the same man. Whereas Poirier, in the second fight, he had so much more control in everything that he did and everything. You know, in the first fight, it was a striking battle. basically. They both went hell for leather, throwing fists. Conor McGregor came out on top, fair enough, whatever. In the second fight, however, quite early on, Poirier got him to ground, got him in the grapple, made him work himself out of it up against the cage to get him to get out of the grapple and everything. And I thought it was interesting because although Conor McGregor, he got out of it and he recovered quite well and everything, after that, he wasn't quite throwing the same. And something you picked up on as well, I'm not going to steal your point or anything, but it was like the leg kicks and everything to sort of numb him out. And I think that just goes to show, I think that if you were going to sit down and really look at who has learnt more in 7 years, it's going to be Poirier, isn't
Definitely
it?
Poirier.
I think Conor McGregor, at the end of the day, he's more of a celebrity than a UFC fighter at this point. I think he's probably noticing it himself now, having taken his eye off the ball on the MMA side of things to sort of go for money, fame, and useless boxing matches and stuff like that. I think,
don't call it useless. You mean Mason stayed up for Mayweather McGregor. We paid for the pay-per-view.
Was that? No, I was thinking Mayweather Pacquiao when we went to.
We went to the Bodford, was it?
The Bodford or the Bodin, really? Yeah. Yeah. No, you're right. Actually, was that in my house as well?
Yeah. We stood queue. The only one that had the skybox off.
Yeah, there.
So thanks, Floyd. You took us for 40 quid.
Aye, but yeah, I don't know. I think it just shows that Poirier, he came into the fight a bit more savvy, didn't he? Done his homework a bit more. I think Conor McGregor expected the same fight in the second fight and got shown up for it a little bit. But he looked on top. And it's one of these things. It's the thing with that. I think everybody likes so much about MMA is the unpredictability of it. I think that second fight was a good example of how it doesn't matter if you're on top for 90% of the fight. If you leave yourself open for a millisecond, it can flip on its head and everything.
Especially when you're against these elite level guys who've been at the top of the division for years.
But that's my view as like a layman's viewer. What do you think?
No, you hit most of the key points there, I have to say. The biggest difference I noticed between the two fights, I'm not going to pretend I made this up, because a lot of people have touched on it since, it happened in January. It's been like 6 months since then.
And no one had anything else to do in January.
Exactly. We're all just sat about, first few months before that, we're waiting about for the UFC to start up again because it was the first sport that decided, no, actually, we think we can put this on and, we'll pay for all the tests and everything. But yeah, biggest difference I noticed was between the sort of stances of McGregor in the two fights. I think, obviously, like you said, he's trained a lot of boxing since fighting Mayweather, wanting to clout chase and fight Pacquiao. I think Pacquiao's actually ended up fighting Errol Spence. He's going to be going for a world title again at 42 years old, which is crazy. Jesus. So should get a nice tidy payday there for McGregor to get him next time. But of course, because of that, so when McGregor started, what he was known for his speed, his variety of attack in terms of spinning attack. He used a lot of kicks, used his lead side kick quite a lot, his lead not front kick, sorry, his lead roundhouse kick quite a lot. He'd set up his combinations and sort of, he got Aldo rushing in with a left hand as well. He'd get people to play into his fighting style. He was just too heavy on his lead leg in the second fight, and that was what allowed Poirier to land all those leg kicks because he was catching him right on the tibial nerve, which I think that's the one just outside the knee. You've seen Michael Chandler and Bellator before get booted there by, I think it was Patricky Pitbull. I can't remember who it was. It might have been Douglas Lima. But he got kicked there and his leg just went completely dead, couldn't walk on it. Happened quite recently as well in, was it Chris? Oh, it was Jimmy Crew. That's who it was, against Anthony Smith. He got a leg kick there and his leg went completely dead. So, if Conor's going to take that more boxing-centric stance, like, let's put it in the context of one of Conor's fights. When he fought Nate Diaz for the second time, Nate Diaz is a southpaw. He comes out. He's very heavy on that lead right leg. Conor just kicked the absolute living daylights out of it for the first 2-3 rounds. And that really put the pressure on Nate because he's not going to switch stances. He's just going to try and walk you down and that. If he's got all that blood building up in his leg, it's sore, it's numb, he's not checking it properly, he can't move as quickly on it, you're going to be at an advantage. And like you were saying as well, Conor was really controlling the striking for the first part of the second fight. I just think the variety of strikes he was using isn't quite what we used to see with Conor McGregor, i.e. the spinning attacks, sort of lead kicks. Because
Very good point.
one of my favourite parts of McGregor's attack is his lead side kicks. He uses that sort of push away to measure range, and that's because he knows how far it is to set up his hand strikes and his other kicks. And also he can use that sort of to keep pressure off him, sort of push someone a bit further back, or if he's trying to back someone up to the cage to get a finish. There's just you look at how much both men have improved since the first fight. You've got to wonder how much they can actually change in 6 months between the second fight. But Poirier's boxing, how it's come on in the past 6 or 7 years.
Well, Poirier is so much more mobile in this day and age. You know,
he was a pretty good boxer back in the day, but he was a bit more of a brawler. And now he's really worked on his head movement and footwork. He's bringing a few more uppercuts into his combinations as well.
You saw it in the second fight that, he's got the combinations with the ducks going on and everything like this. He's so, and again, I don't know what I'm talking about. but
again, that's what I can see.
It's this.
That's one of the things Conor was for. His movement was, but that's what he used to do. I don't know how much of a detriment the extra £10, because the first fight as well was at featherweight, 145, 155 for the second one and this one. But I mean, I doubt £10 makes that much of a difference for a professional athlete.
You wonder.
Some people have said it was even a detriment to Poirier because he did sort of struggle sometimes with eating other people's shots at the lower weight.
Right.
So
it's interesting. I often wonder now, because how many fights has Conor McGregor had back since coming back to MMA? 4?
I think he's had 3 or 4. You know what? Let's just get his
He's won 1 and he's lost the rest, I think, is what it is.
But he's fought Cowboy Cerrone. He's fought, I think he fought Khabib, then he fought Cowboy Cerrone, did he?
Right. Because it was Khabib, for me, is like the last one I would consider, He retired and whatnot.
Oh yeah, he fought Khabib, Cowboy Cerrone, and then he lost to Poirier. So he's 1 and 2 in his last 3.
1 and 2. Well, I don't know. For me, what it looks like for me is a little bit like he's still fighting back in 2014 or whatever, with an older body, with a mind that doesn't seem to be much wiser or much more wily or anything like this, And it makes me wonder. I think it'll be a really interesting fight, because I think he'll want it, won't he? And I think the biggest thing that we have to wonder nowadays with Conor McGregor is he's been there, he's done that, he's got to the top, he's moved on, he's come back. What's driving him?